Puppet Warp is one of those just really fun tools to play with in Photoshop. And Puppet Warp also has useful features. It lets you bend objects in any direction you could imagine. Now in this image, I've got a photo of a lion and I want to make it look like he's scratching his foot. So I'm going to load a selection that I've saved. Select, Load Selection. There's the lion channel, and I'll click OK. And I want to make a new layer out of this lion. So I will choose Layer, New, Layer via Copy. But I'm more likely to hit Command J or Control J to jump to a new layer. That's how I remember the shortcut. I'll hide the background and name Layer 1 Lion. Now, in order to warp this lion's foot like he's just getting an itch, I need to remove him from the background originally, because if I move the foot, I don't want to see the original foot that was there in the background layer. So I hid the lion layer, I'm clicking back on the background layer, and I will choose Select, Load Selection again. I will use the same channel lion and click OK, and then choose Select, Modify, Expand, and I'm going to go for a bigger value. I'll try 30 pixels, real big area. And then I'll choose Edit, Fill, and leave it on the default Content Aware, and click OK. It did all right. I don't need to worry about any of the inside, but I want to make sure the original spot stays rock. So I could try Edit, Fill, leave it on Content Aware again, and see how it does. So you'll get different results here. I can deselect with Select, Deselect, and we'll see how the Puppet Warp does. So I will turn on the lion layer and make sure I click on the word lion so he's active. Now here comes the fun part. Edit, Puppet Warp. And with Puppet Warp, I'm going to keep his little head still, or actually it's probably a very large head. Wouldn't want to be face to face. I will pin this part of the leg and near his tail, and then when I add my last pin, my fourth pin, I can click and drag and move his foot so he's getting a nice scratch, or maybe even stretch it up a little bit. His body will have a little give, but that's okay as well. It would naturally give. And I could pull individual spots if I want him arcing up a little bit. So when I press Return or Enter, I'll hit Command-Z on the Mac or Control-Z again and again to see before and after. Undo, do, undo, redo. Very fun. So this actually has practical application as well. Sometimes if a model's arm is in the wrong position, or the hand is falling in the wrong spot where it's distracting, or doesn't give good shape to the photograph, you can isolate the arm or hand to a layer and use Puppet Warp to bend it in any direction that will give you a better image overall. Now let's finish off with using Puppet Warp for a special effect. In this photograph, I've got a boy jumping, and I want to create the illusion of motion so you get that feel like you're in flight with him. So I've already isolated the boy to his own layer, and you're on the boy 1. And what I'm going to do is move this down a little bit. Now he's still in the original, and that's okay. I'm going to pull both of his arms down like they're rising up until they land in the spot he was originally photographed in. So I will choose Edit, Puppet Warp, and I will zoom in with Command plus or Control plus, and I'm going to put some pins on his knees so that they stay still. I'll pin the top of his wrist and his shoulder, and I can pull straight down, and there it goes. And his body moves a little bit with it, but that's okay. This is a special effect. So now I'll pin this shoulder and move this hand down, as if he hasn't risen up yet. You could add more pins if you want more movement in individual spots, but I'm happy with that. So I'll press Return or Enter to commit to this. There's also a check mark you could choose. And now I want a special effect of a motion blur. So under the filter menu is blur and motion blur. And there we have it. In fact, motion blur starts out with a distance that's lower and an angle of 0. As you increase the distance, you get more motion. So you could give the feeling of left to right. But if you go for an angle of 90 or minus 90, you give the illusion of up and down motion. So there we have him in flight. I'll click OK, and with my Move tool, maybe move it a little bit closer to where he originally was. I might also want to erase away the motion below his knees, but I'm going to let it go for now. And I saved the original boy on a layer that was hidden on top. So if I zoom down, there's your finished special effect, giving you the feeling of motion along with the boy by using Puppet Warp. So take a look at what Puppet Warp can do and see how you can work it in to real-world composition or even very fun special effects.